Muy buenas tardes, mi gente. Aquí con ustedes la Comadre B with another episode of Comadreando aquí y con café. Here we are. Happy Monday. Feliz lunes. Hoy es Monday, March the 25th, 2024. Como siempre, mis saludos. Hi, Mom. Y quería darle un saludo today to an old friend of mine, Nettie de Leon. I see you watch, comadre. Thank you for all the love and support. Quería mandarle también un saludo en especial all the way to Tijuana a Caballo Prestado Music Label. Give them a follow, guys. They are on Instagram for everything entertainment. Today's episode is brought to you by the Quetzal Films for all your video and photography needs, covering the areas of Idaho, Oregon, or Washington. Please contact them at 986-201-6617. Their slogan says, Raza, capturando los momentos de hoy para impresionar tu corazón mañana. Give them a follow. Here is their handle. They are also on Instagram. Tell them La Comadre B sent you. All right, Raza. So today I have a very special guest here. He is here to talk about a case, not only because it's gory and that's what you guys are into, but he wants to bring awareness to the communities around, meaning everybody everywhere. You know, with our special needs people, handicapped, you know, people that just need a little bit more help in general. But before we get into the case, let's talk to this special guest and see what he tells us about himself. Okay, special guest, talk to the people. Who are you? What are you? What do you do? What are you about?
I'm Julian Salazar, and I like to play games and I like to make videos on YouTube. Let's get into the story, people.
All right, guys, so take this as a trigger warning because the story itself is very gruesome and the details are very, very graphic. So you have been warned. This is your trigger warning. So we're going back into time. The year is 2022. We are in the city of Slaughter, Louisiana, and the date is January 3rd, 2022 to be exact. This story is about Lacey Fletcher. She is a 36-year-old woman who has been in a handicapped state for 12 years now. She is daughter of Clay Fletcher, who is some kind of officer for some kind of es uno de esos chingones. Her mother is as well one of those big headshots. Her name is Shayla Fletcher. She works in the city. She is actually the assistant of the city prosecution, and she's a member of the city council. So yeah, both of these people together are a power couple. And just before we start lo ocurrido, quote on, quote off, however you want to put it, the exact words of these parents was, we signed up to be parents, not caregivers. That is what she said.
We were just talking, Dr. Hickey and me, about mom versus dad. Mom also didn't know the age of her daughter and had to be asked 3 times on the 911 call what was the age of her daughter. She finally settled on 31, but, you know, Lacey was 36.
Okay, so now we go onto the date of this horrific situation. And this is where it gets ugly, guys. It gets really, really ugly.
The day the mom called the cops was when Lacey Fletcher was found dead on the family couch. It was reported that she had been her skin had melted to the couch. and that she was laying in her feces and urine. Back when she was a kid, she was diagnosed with a severe case of Asperger's, and she had been diagnosed with autism. She had started facing new obstacles in her early to mid 20s. And that one, it was called locked-in syndrome, which means that it's a rare neurological disorder or syndrome where you can't move parts of your body. So what her parents did was they sat her down on the couch and then left her cross-legged like this, just sitting on the couch. Her parents took a weekend vacation, and then without food or water for Lacey to drink or eat. So basically what happened, since the human body can't survive without 3 days without water, every time they went on vacation, they would come back a day before and give her water so she doesn't die. Her parents came home and then walked into the living room and found her dead on the couch, laying in all her feces and urine, with maggots eating all her insides and eating whatever's left of her body. And then they called the police. The cops walked in. They smelled it, the sulfur, the urine and the feces, and they went out. They called the coroner. The coroner went in. He smelled the same thing. Went to investigate. He came out. The coroner said it was so bad that he couldn't eat, but he cried for a week. They did an autopsy on her, and then they said that fecal parts or the feces were in her ears, her mouth, and her hair.
Her stomach.
And then during the autopsy, they opened up her stomach, and then they found feces and the couch stuffing inside of it, because they left her with no food to eat, so she had to turn her head and eat the stuffing of the couch. Flashback to 2022, they were charged with second-degree manslaughter and neglection. It took them 5 months for them to get sentenced to prison.
Because they posted bail.
Huh?
They posted bail. So they were such an admirable couple within the community. They went ahead, the wife posted their bail, and they were out on bail. Supposedly the husband was chummy with who the judge was. So they were probably not even going to press charges on them or prosecute them to the full extent of murder. Just some kind of neglect. But since the DA picked it up and the medical examiner and the coroner, both, these are different people, started stepping in and saying it wasn't just neglect, it was actual abuse, because this woman, now at the age of 36, had been sitting in this position for what they came to believe about 12 years. See, so right here, the nephew saying she melted into the couch. According to the mother, she had told investigators that when she was 24 years old, she sat down in that couch, the family couch, and that's when the whole locked syndrome came to be, that she just stayed there in an Indian style position on the couch, and she was unable to move after. She was supposedly able to speak, and it was her wishes to sit there. Que no se quería ir, she just wanted to sit there and watch movies. Her autism, we'll rewind a little bit to her early high school years, which is kind of suspicious to a lot of people because they all say that she was a full functioning child. Everything was fine as a kid. The neighbors remember playing with her, remember her going to school. She was even part of drill team and all that stuff. She was perfectly functioning in every way. Although they do mention she was under the spectrum of autism, they said she was I guess, high operating autism because it didn't get in her way of anything. Once she hit high school is when I guess the mom describes that it was a different kind of, like he said, obstacle. Easy things that were for her before were beginning to be hard for her, and she was getting bullied at school by all the girls of her age. So this is where she started showing different interests, as if she was not the same like average age likings. She wasn't into what all the 14-year-old girls were doing, makeup boys and this and that. She'd rather sit down and watch her Disney movies and play. Like, that's what she wanted to do. So that's when they started to notice that something wasn't right with her. So they, the parents, Sheila and Clay, decided to pull her out of high school and do the whole homeschooling to avoid her getting picked on, because they were being really nasty to her. You guys know how girls are. And that was literally the end of Lacey as the whole neighborhood knows it. Now, people come and go in el barrio, you know how that is. Los vecinos, they move, this and that. The investigators and news broadcasters that actually covered this story back in 2022 when it first happened were interviewing the neighbors, like, hey, didn't you ever see anything, blah, blah, blah. Because this is big stuff, all of a sudden, here in this little ranchito of Slaughtertown comes the coroner truck. What the hell just happened in that house, Well, one of the oldest residing neighbors, que todavía vivía allí, told one of the news anchors that he didn't even know she still lived there. He told the news in his interview that at one point he had talked to Clay and he asked about Lacey. He said, you know what? I haven't seen your daughter in so long. Did she move out of here? Is she in college? What is she up to? What's going on with her? And the dad just changed the subject. He didn't want to get into it. He didn't want to talk about it. So that neighbor assumed that she was doing the adult thing, finishing up college or whatever, because it had been years since they had seen this girl. Another neighbor that was a newer neighbor wasn't even aware that that couple had a daughter. From what they say is that this couple was a power couple in the neighborhood right there within the community. They were at church every Sunday, guys. Every Sunday they were at church. What were they asking for? Forgiveness? Were they feeling guilty, or were they just trying to make an appearance and look cool among their friends? Who knows? But that's where they were every Sunday. So yeah, according to the mom, she found a disgrace to her daughter because her and her husband were such go-getters and so accomplished, and she was nothing like them. How could she? They didn't even get her any help. That locked-in syndrome is an actual state in which you can overcome it. There was an article that I was reading about where there was another woman that actually spoke about this case, saying that she suffered from that syndrome, and that even though you can't speak or move, you're aware of everything that's going on. So can you guys imagine the horrors that this poor girl was going through for 12 years, and she was unable to communicate and nobody cared to help her? The nephew briefly described what it was like to be her, okay? The father went ahead and altered the couch and made a hole in there. So she was actually sitting on the couch, but in un hoyo, like a hole in the bottom, which became her 24/7 bathroom. She was never able to get up and use any facilities. She never showered for this 12 years that she was said to have been on this couch. So yeah, the parts of the skin that were touching the couch were actually melting into this leather couch. There is a photo. I'm gonna post it here so you guys can see. And what you guys are looking at right now is the exact picture how they found her. She is tipped over to her left. And that is exactly how she was the entire time, unable to move because she is, number one, non-mobile, number one. And number two, because her parents didn't care to help her. Coroner said he actually got in there to, try to get her out. He said that the bottom half of her was in decomposing state. There was maggots down there. It was completely full of her feces, her urine. So he compares that smell of when he walked in and the air hit his face to that of a sewer system that has been backed up for days. So if you have ever smelled any of that, you can just imagine what that reeked like.
Or a septum tank.
Or a septic tank. This poor girl had feces in her hair, smudged everywhere. She had feces in her ears, in her nose, obviously in her mouth because she was eating this as her parents left her for this week vacation that they left on. She had maggots in her hair as well. They climbed up there. They were eating this poor girl alive. Amongst all this other stuff this poor girl was going through, she had ulcers on the bottom of her body. They said that these ulcers and these like bed sores were so horrific, they went straight into the bone. Like you could literally see the bone through these oils, these holes that her body had. Another thing they had found her with was sepsis, and that in itself has a whole list of symptoms. What are they?
Sepsis, it occurs when the immune system has a dangerous reaction to an infection. Inflammation throughout your body can lead to tissue damage, organ failure, and death. You need to treat it as soon as possible. The quicker you receive treatment, the better it can be. The longer you wait, it's the worse it gets.
So imagine this poor muchacha sitting there, like I said, unable to communicate any of what she's feeling. And the mom still had the nerve to sit there and say, I would take care of her and clean her bed sores all the time. How the hell were you able to clean her sores if this child, this woman, was the couch? Like, she became the couch. The coroner also says that the bottom of the couch, everything was just dripping down. The floor was already wore out del charco, like the whole freaking puddle.
The wood floor started decomposing.
So you're gonna sit here and say that you used to pull her out of there and clean her sores and then put her back into maggots? Come on, lady. What else? Nephew, read the list right here.
So, what else? The other things that she had died with was a bone infection, extended mobility, extreme malnutrition, and severe chronic neglect of a special needs individual. The parents sent to court of neglect and a second degree of manslaughter.
There was a clip of the medical examiner, which was a woman. They had her listen in because when the mom called initially to report that the daughter had stopped breathing, that she had passed away, supposedly the 911 operator told her to give CPR. So there's a clip, guys, where the mother's talking to the 911 operator and she's getting instruction on how to perform CPR to the daughter. So while the mom's on the phone getting instructions, supposedly they are giving the girl CPR, and there's a breathing pattern that you can hear. I will play that clip right now.
Listen to the sounds that are coming through the 911 call. Ostensibly, this is supposed to be the sounds of CPR, and I want to get you to judge whether this is real or whether it's fake.
Are we doing confessions or on the couch? If we can't get a floor, then we can do confessions on the couch then. Are we doing confessions now?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm going to need you to count loud with me, okay? So I can instruct you, okay?
As you can hear, it's an actual pattern. So the medical examiner ruled it out as a lie. She said, there is no possible way they were performing CPR to this girl, because in order to give CPR, the person has to be laid flat on the surface. And the same way they found her was the exact same way the mother reported that she had found her when she walked in the house and she wasn't responding anymore, meaning they never moved her to give her CPR. So this whole breathing thing that they were playing on the phone call was just an act to make it sound like they were concerned and they were trying to help their daughter out. So yeah, you guys heard it for yourselves. To me, it just seems like, you know, with that whole comment in itself, we signed up to be parents, not caregivers. That alone tells you where their mindset was, and they didn't care that they had this daughter. They didn't care that she was handicapped, and they didn't care that she relied on them for every single need she had. I mentioned earlier there was a woman that had that locked-in syndrome, and she says she overcame it with a lot of therapy and with time. Maybe if Lacey would have got that treatment, and maybe if her parents would have cared to get her physical therapy, to get her to a doctor, period, she could have still been here. During these 12 years that she was becoming the couch, no physician even came to the house to check her out. According to the mother, when they asked her, why didn't you take her to the doctor? Guess what her answer was, guys? Because she was never sick. What do you call that condition then? Like, what do you expect, a cough? Or, you know, it's like, geez, I'm pretty sure she had all these fevers as all the symptoms that Mr. Cupcake just read out. Like, how are you going to sit here and say, oh, she was never sick, so we never took her in? I think it was purposely done to be vacationing often, like the nephew said, because they were often out, and they were often out together for days. They didn't care if she lived or died. It was a burden for them to have a daughter, you know, sitting here in this couch. And yeah, it's just a shame that, you know, because they were known and they were cool people and everybody liked them, at first they took it so lightly. They had court in August of 2023.
They went in for manslaughter, but then they ended up convicting them for murder.
Murder.
Life without the possibility
Of parole or bail.
So yeah, guys, this is the story of Lacey Fletcher.
The case of Lacey Fletcher is sad, and it brings a tear to my eye just to think about it. Like, what kind of parents leaves their own kid sitting on a couch with locked-in syndrome like that for 12 years? For me personally, I would, if I had a child like that, I would just take care of them, give them treatment, whatever, just to keep them alive.
Well, that's a common sense parent.
Yeah.
You're a parent, guys. It ain't about you no more. Whether your child is special needs or severely handicapped or just needs extra help of some kind, you know, that's what we sign up for, period. You know, her statement, that may be her in her heart, but in reality, we are parents. We are our children's voice. We speak for them, take care of them, love them. We're supposed to provide for them, protect them, and, you know, raise them all the way around till they are able to be able to. You know what I mean?
Says that they were sentenced to prison on Wednesday. Sheila and Clay Fletcher were each sentenced to 40 years through a 20, though 20 will be suspended. So they both got 20 years in prison.
That's it.
Considering their age, they'll probably never see the time of day.
The mom's what, like 67, right?
Yeah.
About.
On Wednesday, they each sentenced to 40 years, though 20 will be suspended. They were ordered to serve 5 years of supervised probation once their prison stints are over. Yeah, I don't think that's enough.
No, it's not. Like always, guys, I tell you, if you see something, say something. Report it to the police. If these are kids that go to school with your kids, make the school known of this. Although she was an adult, this was still abuse. Because again, she was in a very, very handicapped state to the point where you can't move or talk. That requires way more than just what a special needs person requires. That's a whole lot of everything else. So yeah, guys, like I was saying, you see something, say something, report it. We gotta be the voice to all these people that can't voice themselves, you know, children, our handicapped community, our elderly community, and even our animals. You know, they can't advocate for themselves. Step it in. Who cares if they say you're nosy? Be nosy for a cause, not just to hear por qué se están sonando a la vecina. Like, really be nosy for a reason. Try to save a life if you can. You know, this was a very unfortunate and a super horrific story. The coroner did mention, he said when he started, you know, doing this whole case, when he found her, to where he opened her to see cause of death and everything, he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep for like weeks, a whole week. He couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, and he cried. He says that, yeah, when they opened her up, her body, the only substance her stomach had was couch cushion and her own feces. That is it. The veins in her body had dropped because that is how dehydrated her body was. So obviously for this whole week her parents were living la vida loca on vacation. She didn't even have a drop of water. Imagine that. Anything else to say?
Yeah, about abuse, just don't do it. There's animal abuse, all kinds of abuse. Like, abuse can mentally and physically alter a human's well-being. There's people who got abused by parents and then grew up to like mentally ill, other stuff. And then there's some people who got physically, their parents physically altered them because they abused them. Like some of them, pale and malnutrition because either their parents didn't feed them or they were lacking the nutritional needs anyway. So that's all I wanted to say for today. Yeah.
All right, Rasta. So that's what we have for you guys today. So have a very nice rest of your day. Have a blessed week, because this is such a week. Just yesterday, there was a news headline in my old town where I grew up. A woman stole the police officer's gun and shot herself in the lobby. That's a story in its own. I will be following. And just a little while ago, all over the news, P. Diddy's house or houses, properties are being raided because they're now accusing him of sex trafficking. So if you guys know my channel, you know I've already been following that. So let's see what this wonderful week brings, raza. Stay safe, stay sane. Los adoro. Bye.